What's up, guys? So I got a request to do the S22 versus the S22 Ultra here. So what are the differences between the smallest flagship versus the biggest flagship? And also there's just a big price gap here as well too. I did a video yesterday. This is $400 for a new refurbished like this one, and then the S22 Ultra is still around $1,000 as well. It's only come down in price like $200, I think. But yeah, so you may not need to spend that extra money. You may not need the extra features that the S22. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the displays on both of these phones, because this is a pretty big difference here. So on the S22, it is a 6.1-inch dynamic AMOLED display. It is 120 Hz HDR10+. It gets 1300 nits peak brightness at 1080p 425 for the PPI, and it is a complete flat display. Now, with the S22 Ultra, it is a 6.8-inch display, dynamic AMOLED, 120 Hz HDR10+, but it does get much brighter outdoors. So it gets up to 1750 nits peak brightness, and then it's a 1440p by 500 for the PPI. I got asked a question like, can you notice the resolution difference? Not really, especially when looking at icons and stuff. They both pretty much look on par with each other as far as quality is concerned here. The 120 Hertz on both of these, so they both feel super smooth. The color on here pretty much looks identical. Like I said, the only big difference with these two displays is honestly that the S22 is flat and the S22 Ultra has a curve to it, which you may or may not like the curve. So I personally like the curve. It gives it a really kind of luxurious feeling to me, but some people hate it, so it just depends. But the S22, it's got these super slim bezels, and it is flat as well too. So I absolutely love curve and flat displays. It really comes down to your preference. Now I do want to go ahead and talk about also another very important thing. Let's talk about the speed of these two devices. These phones have the same exact specs. So they both have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chip. They both have 8 gigs of RAM, and they both have 128 gigs of storage, and they both do not have SD card support. They both will get the same software support, 4 years and then 5 years of security patches. As far as the speed on both of these phones, they are pretty much on par with each other. I did not notice like a difference. They didn't like tweak the speed to be a little bit faster on the S22. They pretty much open up applications the same, they feel the same. Basically anything that you do, it's gonna feel exactly the same. So you're not getting a watered down experience with the S22. They literally feel the exact same. I would say the S22, the standard one, is scroll smoother than the S22 Ultra. Like in applications like YouTube, and it's just overall smoother to me. So I want to know, like, do you guys still have sort of like these sort of lags with the S22 Ultra? I get them from time to time, especially in YouTube. You can't see it now, but earlier you could see like a little jitter. But the S22, it remains smooth in pretty much anything that I do here. So as far as the gaming performance as well too, so one thing I noticed, the S22 Ultra, it does get a little bit hotter than the S22. Now I am going to put this through like a full gaming test as well on my S22. But yeah, this phone does heat up a bit if you're doing like intensive tasks and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't think it's a big concern, but definitely. Also, one of the key features of upgrading here is this S Pen. So you have a built-in S Pen on the S22 Ultra. This will allow you to jot down notes. It will allow you to do digital artwork if you're into that, and overall just use your stylus to navigate. There's a ton of little things that I love about the S Pen, like being able to take a picture from a distance. So just like this, right? If I was like wanting to, like I said, I was outside, put a tripod on this, want to take a picture or video, you just step back, boom, snap the photo. That's something that I really like about the S22 Ultra. And overall, the S Pen, it just feels really nice. It gives you a really fancy experience. It's something that you have to try, but every time I use it, it just feels fancy, right? And obviously you don't have that on the S22 or the S22 Plus. So that could be a feature that you might really like. Both of these phones pretty much have the same software So you do have Samsung desktop support, secure folders, Dolby Atmos is on here. Basically, this has everything that this has. Reverse wireless charging is on both of these phones, wireless charging. Both of these phones have IP68, dust and water resistant, NFC. Literally, you're not missing anything. It's really just the S Pen, right? Also, let's check out these speakers on these two devices because I'm really curious to see if the S22 has better speakers than the Ultra, because the Ultra speakers aren't my favorite this year, but we'll see. Yeah, so they actually sound exactly alike, which is not good for the S22 Ultra. This is a bigger phone, so it should have a way better speaker. So it should not be on par with the smaller S22. So I'm not sure what happened this year, but yeah, I'm not a fan of the S22 Ultra speaker. I got asked about the haptics on these phones. You have pretty strong vibration motor. If you put your phone on vibrate, you'll be able to feel it pretty easily. So I didn't have an issue with that. It's like I said, it's not the strongest. I felt stronger vibration motors from Samsung, but like I didn't think it was an issue. All right, so here's one of the biggest differences with both of these devices here, and it is going to be your camera experience. In my opinion, this is where like, you know, majority of the money is going to, right, is this beefed up camera system. So this is the real deciding factor in my opinion. So the S22, it does have a triple camera setup here, and then the S22 Ultra, it does have a quad camera setup. On the Ultra, you have a 108 megapixel standard, 10 megapixel periscope telephoto lens that does 10x, another telephoto lens that does 3x optical zoom, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide. And then you also have a macro mode on here as well. It can shoot an 8K 24, and then you have a 40 megapixel selfie on here. The S22 has a 50 megapixel standard, a 10 megapixel telephoto that does 3x, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It can shoot in 8K as well, 24, and then you have a 10 megapixel selfie cam. The S22, it does not have a macro mode like the S22 Ultra, so do note that. But yeah, so I really like the cameras on both of these phones. They both do a great job. I'm going to show you guys these side-by-side stills, but you get that 100 times zoom on the S22 Ultra, and it just takes much better zoom shots, and it can go further. So just for instance, like this does only 3x, but this goes up to 10x, and really if you hit this to 30, it still does an amazing job at taking 30 zoom shots, and even being able to take some pretty, somewhat decent shots at 100 times. Not super usable, but it's good for like seeing things from a far distance. It's just a crazy beefed up camera system. So it is a better camera system on paper, but if you're somebody that's just taking stills, I'm going to show you stills, and I thought they were pretty close, so be sure to let me know what you guys think. S22. And here's the Ultra. (3x), 10x.
nice.
Alright guys, I do want to talk about the hardware on these two phones. First, you have just two beautiful devices here. They're both, you know, premium builds, glass and metal phones here, both IP68 dust and water resistant. I do feel like the S22 is definitely more comfortable than the squared off design. It just sort of like, and I'm not a big fan of this squared off design, even on the iPhones as well too. I hate that they switch. It just doesn't feel as comfortable as like the phones with the curve. It just sort of fits in the palm much better. And like I said, if you have smaller hands, the S22 is just way easier to hold. It's more comfortable and it's also much lighter as well too. But yeah, so as far as the design wise, they both look the same. It's just the camera difference, right? I like the little cutout, but I also like what Samsung did this year with the Ultra. It kind of reminds me of the Velvet. But yeah, so hardware wise, just know S22 gonna be more comfortable to hold. So if you're in a compact phones, definitely check that out. But as far as materials and just overall the premium feel, they both do an excellent job. All right, so battery life. So this is pretty interesting. So the S22, it has pretty good battery life, but the S22 Ultra, it feels somewhat on par with the S22. But my S22 Ultra standby time is not as good as the S22. So if I turn both devices off, this one would definitely die faster on standby. Now we're talking about screen on time. They both get around like 6 hours of screen on time. So they both do somewhat, you know, pretty decent when it comes to battery life. Not the best that you can get out there, but it is pretty decent. The battery specs, it is a 5,000 milliamp battery, 45 watt charging, wireless, reverse wireless, and then we have a smaller battery, but it doesn't really matter because the screen is smaller, it's less resolution, there's no S Pen sucking juice. So it's a 3,700 milliamp battery, but this does have slower charging at 25 watts, so this does charge noticeably faster. And then you also have wireless charging, reverse wireless charging. Alright, so basically the battery experience is going to be slightly better on the S22 Ultra simply because I just like the faster charging speeds. The 25 versus the 45 is noticeable. But as far as screen on time, I don't think you're getting a big difference. Not that I can notice. And I think the S22 does better with standby time. So that is pretty much it, guys. Be sure to let me know what do you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.